And let's begin by telling you that human rights lawyer and activist Dele Farotimi has been granted bail by an Ekiti State magistrates court. He was granted bail in the sum of 50 million naira with a surety in like sum. The court said the surety must own landed property, while the matter was adjourned to January 29th, 2025 for further proceedings. Farotimi was remanded last week Monday by the court in Ado-Ekiti for allegedly defaming illegal luminary Afe Babalola in his recently published book, Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System. There has been an outrage over his arrest and subsequent persecution, with legal opinions divided over the actions instigated by Babalola. And now to discuss this, we are joined by legal practitioner Bayo Sani. Bayo, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the factors that we're seeing regarding, this court, the Nigerian court in particular. What factors does the Nigerian court consider when determining bail conditions? 50 million naira for a defamation case. That is a lot.
Okay, thank you. Bail is at the discretion of the court, and there are lots of there are lots of factors to be considered by the court when determining an application for bail that has been filed on behalf of a defendant. Number one, you consider the likelihood of the defendant jumping bail. You consider the seriousness of the offense. You consider the nature of the offense. Then you consider also whether the accused person is a first-time offender or whether he has been convicted like that. So we have a case of FRN Ajudwa, where the Supreme Court outlined all these things that must be considered. Even at that, it is still at the discretion of the court. The conditions, although legal principle does not permit you to give stringent bail conditions, that's why you can go back to court and vary the conditions if you find it too stringent, or you can appeal to the appellate court on that. So that is the position. Now, if you look at it, you said for an offense like defamation. Yes, defamation is an offense. It's a crime in Nigeria by virtue of Section 374 of the Criminal Code. Okay, and the gentleman, Mr. Dele Farotimi, has been arraigned before a magistrate court for that offense. All right. And the fact that he has been arraigned shows that, okay, he can be granted bail, and which has just been done by the magistrate court in Ekiti today. Regardless of that, it's also a simple offense. I mean, it's an offense that is less than 7 years, which means it's not a felony. All right. But that's the courts. I won't be here to really determine whether the court was fair or not. So it still has its rights under the law.
So we're yet to determine whether the court was fair. It's at the discretion of the court. But this is not a criminal offense, meaning that this is not a felony, right? And this is, so to be clear, this is a civil matter.
I did not say it is not a criminal offense.
All right.
I said it is not a felony.
It's not a felony. So what
now,
then?
It is a crime in Nigeria.
Right.
Do you understand? You see, defamation can be civil, can be a tortious civil wrong, and can also be a crime. Criminal code in Nigeria, which is the umbrella criminal law in Nigeria, has criminalized defamation, libel. Now, if a statement has been made or has been published against you as an individual, as a citizen of Nigeria, and you find it to be libelous, you have two options. Either pursue a civil suit against the person that you feel has published that libelous statement against you, or you initiate a criminal action against such person.
So he's committed a crime.
So
this is a crime. I'm trying to get to my next question, right?
All right.
So this is a crime case.
Libel is a crime.
So it's a crime. He's
it's
committed
a crime in Nigeria.
Right. So to what extent is the judge's decision in this case influenced by political or public nature of the case? I need to ask this because we have to consider Dele Farotimi's role as a human rights lawyer.
You see, we are lawyers. I like the way you have described Mr. Dele Farotimi as a lawyer. We are lawyers. We have been trained to be circumspect in our opinion. We have also been trained not to make, I don't want to use the word baseless, but I want to say that we have been trained to always support our statement with proof. with evidence. If I say something, I must be able to prove it. If I say fact, I must be able to prove it. That is the role of evidence. Even as lawyers, whenever we are defending, we are representing our clients in court, if you make a legal argument, you are supposed to support it with a judicial authority or a law. You can't just put anything before the court and say, this is what the law is. Where did you see it? That's where we have the principle of ratio decidendi. Now, coming back to the publication of Mr. Dele Farotimi, the matter is in court now. Criminal action has been initiated against him. He has a defense, which is justification, and that's truth of the publication, which is defense of justification. And I will leave it to the stage of trial because I would love to see that defense because those allegations are weighty. Those allegations are against the most sacred institution in Nigeria, which is the judiciary, okay? Whether the allegations are right or not, it's left for Mr. Farotimi to.
But does the judge's decision in this case, do you think it was influenced by the political or public nature of the case?
How will anybody be able to prove that? How? How will you say that, look, the judiciary is a third arm of government. They have been saddled with a sacred responsibility. As lawyers, look, this is the way it is. I would liken it to this manner when we're in school, when we're in the university and you feel that, okay, I'm being careful. I am not saying Mr. Farotimi is wrong. What he has written in his book is before the court. He has to prove it now to justify what he has written. Not only against Chief Afe Babalola, whom he has mentioned. There are other fellows that he has mentioned in the book. Apart from that, the Supreme Court, retired Chief Judge, former Attorney General of Lagos State. These are people who have spent so many years building integrity and trying to leave a legacy of their name, okay? That's on one side. Now, on the other side is Mr. Farotimi, who feels, oh, this was what happened in this book. If you have written something like that, you must support such facts with evidence. And if Mr. Afe Babalola has chosen to proceed with a criminal action against him, then when they get to trial, he must be ready to defend himself by putting up a good defense of justification of what he has said. Otherwise, look, we'll be looking at the most sacred institution in this country, that's the judiciary, with a lot of doubts in the mind of the common man that's supposed to see judiciary as the last hope of the common man. You understand what I'm saying? So that is where we are now.
So, a common man.
So, if you say that, oh, is it true that judges' decisions are influenced? I don't know about anything like that.
I never asked if it's true. I said, do you think that the judge's decision in this case was influenced by the case?
In his own case, in the case that
in this case that he
well, we will get to see whether it is true or not when he gets to trial.
You've been skirting around this question, so let me ask you my final question before I let you go. And this time it's about the legal system and balance.
Okay.
When it comes to the individual rights, with state interests in politically charged cases, like what we're seeing with Dele Farotimi, where is the legal, how does the legal system create or provide balance in cases like this?
This is not a political case.
Well, it has public interest.
Don't describe it as such.
Well, I'm going to say why. Here's why I say it's politically charged, right? If you are writing against cases and you're writing experiences of your own personal experience as your time as a lawyer, human rights lawyer, and you're calling out very big wigs in the judicial system that you have just said is the third arm of governance, don't you think that that is not a politically charged case?
I disagree.
Okay.
Look, the subject matter of their suit borders on land or whatever, according to what he wrote in his book. Nothing political about it. It's not about election petition. It's not about political decision. It's not even a constitutional matter. All right? And you have leveled an allegation against some people because I can say that for every case I lose in court, the judge was biased or the judge was influenced by the other party. That can be the statement on the mouth of every lawyer that has lost a case in court. Just like when we're in school, whenever you fail an exam, you say the lecturer failed you. But when you pass an exam, you say, I passed the exam. Do you understand? So we should be very careful.
All right, so let's take out the word politically charged, because I understand we're pressed for time. A very public case like this, a situation that is liable 50 million naira bail and also surety and sum. Does the legal system provide balance for individual rights and for state interests in a, because people have questioned, critics have questioned how he was being taken from Lagos all the way to Ekiti and being arraigned in front of a court at Ekiti. Again, a publicly charged, a public interest case like Dele Farotimi's case.
You see, since this matter commenced, we have seen a lot of lawyers on social media, we have seen a lot of judges on social media giving their own legal opinion or in the manner they feel right or wrong. Now, Dele Farotimi still has his rights. Same with the man who initiated these criminal proceedings. He also felt that what they wrote about him in the book or what he wrote about him in the book are libelous. I've said it, the legal system has left conditions for bail at the discretion of the court. If you feel that the court has given stringent bail conditions, you can either vary it, apply to vary it, which we have seen in Emefiele's case here, most recent case here. We don't even want to cite old-time cases, the most recent case. You can either apply for the bail conditions to be varied, or you can appeal against it. All right? Now, he was arrested in Lagos. He was taken to Ekiti. If you look at the principle of conspiracy in criminal law, it can cut across several jurisdictions. And for every jurisdiction that this crime touches, the accused person can be arraigned anywhere. We have seen people with series of events, chains of actions. Somebody will start from another state, will conclude the crime in another state. Do you understand? So these are crimes that cut across various jurisdictions. He was arrested in Lagos State. The complainant, or the complainant now, resides in Ekiti. He was taken from Lagos to Ekiti, where libel is still a crime, with no local law in the state law repealing the provisions of the criminal code.
You still haven't answered the question. How does the legal system balance individual rights with state interests in public cases, public interested cases like Dele Farotimi?
You say I still have a problem calling that matter a public interest.
Well, okay, so in this case like Dele Farotimi,
yes.
How about we remove the adjective? How does the legal system balance individual rights with public interests or state interests in cases like this?
Law is it. You see, law is a two-way pendulum. And as you have said, how does the legal system balance their interests? Number one, the pathfinder there is the Constitution. What are your rights under the Constitution? And how it must be upheld to ensure that your rights are not violated in any way. These are some of the, should I say, the shield available to whoever has been accused or whoever is standing trial or facing any criminal charge. That is the pathfinder here. That is the umbrella. That is the platform for anybody. All right. So that is the instrument that we must consider.
All right. Well, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on. Bayasani. Bayasani is a legal practitioner, joined us here to have more detail, just to discuss with us regarding the Dele Farotimi libel case. We're going to a short break. When we come back, there is more on the other side. Stay here. And you're welcome back. The South-East Caucus in the Senate has joined calls for more extensive consultations on the tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly. The leader of the caucus and representative of Abia South, Senator Enyi Naya Abariba, announced this after a closed-door meeting with senators from the 5 South-Eastern states held in his office. Abaribi clarified that the caucus is not opposed to the proposed bills, but insists that broader discussions are essential before the legislation moves forward for full consideration and passage in both chambers of the National Assembly.
The decision of the South-East Caucus is that as much as we are not against the bill, that we would also have to do further consultations with our different constituencies and the state governments. And we think that the result of those consultations will lead to a better bill being passed and a much more equitable framework for finances in this country.
A former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, has said that the battle against corruption can only be effective and successful if it begins with accountability among top government officials. The former president said that tackling corruption at the highest levels of leadership would set an example for others and demonstrate the government's commitment to transparency and integrity. He spoke on last night during an interactive session in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. The conversation focused on Obasanjo's legacies in government and his assessment of today's Nigeria. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo described corruption as hydra-headed and one that has eaten deep into the fabric of Nigerian society, emphasizing that the fight against corruption must start with leadership for it to succeed. Earlier, public affairs analyst Dr. Sam Amadi shared his thoughts on this.
Leadership is critical. Some force and leadership, but it's more so in countries that are culturally hierarchical. Scholars argue that changes in such countries should be based on top-down instead of bottom-up. For the simple reason that those countries lack the hierarchical, and so they expect change from bottom-up, but rather change from up-down. So that's really the way to look at it, that change must come from top down, not necessarily bottom up. That's the point. Again, in our own example, we've seen that leaders are models, the signal to everybody what the system can tolerate and permit. So in spite of laws against corruption and rhetoric against corruption, when we see leaders signal to followers, citizens, that certain conducts can be rewarded or punished, then they incentivize those behaviors. It's more than rhetoric. So, like a famous position says, what you do speaks louder than what you say. I can hear you.
And now to security matters. The Nigerian Army and their counterparts from Chad, Niger, and other neighboring countries have begun joint patrols to counter cross-border threats posed by the Lakurawa terrorist group. The collaborative effort aims to restrict the group's movement as it has been linked to serious criminal activities in northern Nigeria and surrounding regions. This comes as the Sokoto State government voiced frustration over the challenge of containing the group due to Nigeria's porous borders. The Lakurawa group affiliated with Sahel-based terrorists, particularly from Mali and Niger Republic, emerged as a national security concern following its audacious first attack on 4th of November. Joining us to discuss this is security expert and executive director, Elixir Trust Foundation, Imano Ikule. Imano, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this. I mean, let's just talk about, what are the key tactics and strategies employed by this new terror group, Lakurawa, and how do they differ from previous, terrorist organizations operating in Nigeria and the surrounding regions?
The first thing is to look in, as you look into this issue, you are looking at issues of, for a system like this to operate in the first place, you are looking at the absence of accountability. When you have already seen people operate before you and nothing has been done about it, it creates room for new persons to also do the same thing. So, but for them, they have tried in working together with scholars, they have tried working together with clerics, young persons, and they have also tried to expand their their membership to people outside Nigeria, to neighboring states, which makes it more like a safe haven in such a situation where if they are being followed in Nigeria, they can run to a nearby state and, that can also be their new place. And to also try to ensure that they have consistent funds They have gone to a level of even imposing tax on citizens in a sovereign nation. It's actually a shocking revelation to what they have been doing in our country, and the government needs to wake up as early as possible.
I mean, away from the government, let's talk about security, security outfits. And for this is the Nigerian military. Let's start with the Nigerian military. What role do their capabilities, including air and ground forces, play in the coordinated offensive against Lakurawa? And how does this compare to past military operations against similar groups?
There's something we call police, community police relationship. It's something that has been lacking in most interventions we have in the country. Because first, you keep hearing things like bloody civilians. When you are not looking at partnership with the community you're policing, indirectly you have lost about 50% of the support or intel that will help and improve your service delivery. And that is something that has been lacking over the years. Military feeling on their own, they can do it. The police feeling on their own, they can do it. The vigilante feeling that on their own, they can do it. No one can address all this situation all by yourself. That is why it's critical that at this time, there's need for synergy. It's not about personal glory, but what the country can achieve if these different security agencies work together. It's not about personal achievement, but what is good for the common man and what is good for the functioning of this particular nation, Nigeria. And as long before and for them to succeed, there is need for them to work together as synergy, at the same time work with the community, because the communities, to an extent, know who and who in those communities belong to this group. They also know the clerics that are also part and parcel of this group. They also have an idea on the routes and routes they are following into the country and out of the country. Possibly who is supporting them with ammunitions and who is sympathetic towards their cause as well, including those in the Nigerian military, including those in the National Assembly and those in Nigeria. So all this has to be taken into cognizance in trying to address these issues of insecurity and as it concerns Lakurawa in our country.
We understand that our borders are quite porous, right? So how are Nigeria's neighboring countries, such as Chad, Niger, and the Cameroon, contributing to the regional offensive against Lakurawa? And one have to ask at this point, what are the operational challenges of coordinating a multinational effort?
The first thing is, for a country like ours, we have reduced the role of the military to come and work within the country, which is the work of the Nigerian police force. So the presidency have to try to reorientate these persons or these different sectors. The military is their role to ensure working on the borders with immigration, with the customs and all that. They should go to their primary assignment and leave the police to police within with civil defense and maybe vigilante, and they to concentrate on the primary role, constitutionally allocated role to them. If the military can go to the borders and do what is expected of them, to a large extent, they would have reduced this threat to an extent. That is one. Secondly, I spoke about they working together. The security agencies within the country have to learn how to work together, because there are certain times they get intel on some of these moves. And if they are sharing intel and working together as a group, it should be able to address these concerns. And then as the concerns also working with in tackling issues that concerns other sovereign nations like Niger and Cameroon, there is need for synergy in the region. There have been several times that we have advocated for need for ECOWAS and other sovereign bodies to come together, or these separate nations to come together to work together, because they have a common problem. They cannot address it independent of the other, because these persons can go and hide there and come back. And you cannot just also enter into a country because you want to go and also arrest criminals in another country. You have to work together, synergize to work together, and they have to. We don't have that time. So they need, particularly our president, if you are trying to build a nation, coming into force as a new civilian head of state, there is that need for him to reach out to the presidents of these various nations, bring them together, have a common plan on how they want to address these concerns. Also try to look at issues internally outside the kinetic ways of addressing this, about issues of lack of employment within the country, absence of accountability structures that check excesses of persons like this. Let us not forget that Boko Haram consistently, different times they were arrested. They were not being brought to book, they were freed. After murdering Nigerian citizens and murdering different persons, shutting down economic plans in different states, you arrest them and there's no accountability and you free them. Indirectly, you are telling them that this is the right way to go. Nothing will happen if other groups too arise. And this is the situation we are facing in the country. So there's need to have accountability structures, make it work. And the president has to be proactive about this. It doesn't concern, when you're addressing issues of insecurity in the country, put aside religion.
Right.
If any criminal is caught committing any crime, no matter your religion, you should be brought to book.
All right.
If you start talking about saving certain persons because they belong to your religion, or saving certain persons because they belong to your region, we won't address any issues. And more groups will continue to come up, because this is, for me, I'll be saying this is a very rich sector now, because the country has allowed it.
And another also will be the financing of these groups, and why, whether or not this is a hydra-headed problem. When you cut off one head, another rises. Well, Emmanuel, it's been sublime having you join us today, and just very, very, very insightful perspective you brought to this discussion. We want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Switch gears away from security and now to politics. The leaders of the All Progressives Congress Alliance, APGA, have called on aggrieved members of the party to embrace peace following the recent Supreme Court ruling affirming Sly Ezeokenwa as the party's national chairman. The appeal was made during the party's National Executive Council meeting, which held in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Marayi brings us more details on this report. Take a look.
A defining moment for the All Progressive Grand Alliance, as the National Executive Committee held the first meeting of the party following the Supreme Court's ruling affirming Sly Ezeokenwa as the party's national chairman. The meeting began with accreditation of committee members, with officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission present to revalidate the National Committee of the party.
Because of the importance of this assignment, we are not just having one department here. We are having 3 departments. We have some of us from the Election and Party Monitoring Department, and then we'll have some of us from the Legal Litigation and Prosecution, and then from the Legal Drafting and Clearance.
During the session, the national chairman extended an olive branch to those he described as members working in variance for the party's objective.
I did say in various interviews that I granted on various TV stations that while we are celebrating this victory, we must equally be magnanimous in victory. And I stand here as a national chairman with your support to declare total amnesty for all members of the party that decided to fall on the wrong side. We are one big family, and we urge everybody to unite together to move our party forward.
Let us all come together. Let us build this party. We are quite, I would say, elated that our party is now one of those parties that you can say isn't having any internal issues.
The governor of Anambra State, also present at the meeting, called on party members nationwide to unite their collective effort to build a better Nigeria.
And we also extend our hand of fellowship to all the Nigerians, progressives all over Nigeria. For us, this is a moment for all progressives in Nigeria to unite. Let us unite and build Nigeria of our dream.
The party says that it has set its sights on the upcoming general elections in 2027. The governor of Anambra State says that the party is open to alliance with other political parties that align themselves with APGA's progressive ideology. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
The Labour Party has initiated legal action to reclaim the seats of 4 lawmakers who defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress. The party insists it is improper for the lawmakers to retain their seats following their defection. The affected members include Tochukwu Okere from Imo, Donatus Matthew from Kaduna, Basi Akiba from Cross River State, Iyawe Esosa from Edo, and Dulop Form from Plateau. Their defection letters were read on the floor of the House of Representatives by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. Labour Party National Publicity Secretary Obiora Ifo condemned the move, describing it as unfortunate, irrational, and a violation of democratic principles. The party vows to pursue the matter through the legal system to uphold its mandate. And now to Borno State, where the governor, Professor Babagana Umara Zulum, has presented the state's 2025 fiscal blueprint, proposing a total expenditure of over 584 billion naira. Tagged the budget of recovery and continuity, the proposal prioritizes rebuilding critical infrastructure, settling internally displaced persons, and repatriation of refugees, as well as strengthening economic recovery efforts. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
Borno, a state in Nigeria's northeast, is fast recovering from the years of insurgency. Borno State Governor and members of the Executive Council, accompanied by the Chief Whip of the Nigerian Senate, among other stakeholders, arrived at the State Assembly. The State Governor unveiled the 2025 budget of recovery and continuity, a fiscal plan for the state.
Our administration has budgeted a total sum of 584 billion, 757,725,000 for the 2025 fiscal year, as against about 360 billion naira that was budgeted last year.
The blueprint also includes initiatives aimed at boosting local industries and fostering private sector partnerships to enhance economic recovery.
In the year 2025 fiscal year, the state government will invest heavily in modern agriculture and resuscitate the Maiduguri dairy farm, establish dairy plants in northern and southern part of the state. Latest by January ending, government will inject additional 50 buses and then 100 electric cars.
Governor Zulum noted that 65% of the budget is earmarked for capital projects, while 35% will cover recurrent expenditure.
The year 2025, inshallah, Goza Dikwa will be electrified. Extension of electricity to Gajira, Mongona, and Baga will be facilitated. The Borno State Primary Healthcare Development Agency will revitalize 100 primary healthcare centers in the state and plan to construct 6 additional primary healthcare centers and upgrade 6 PHCs to comprehensive health centers.
The governor emphasized the government's commitment to consolidating progress in security and stability, education, healthcare, and agriculture.
We shall be resilient in order to continue the program. Construction and rehabilitation of fire service stations in 27 local government areas, establish media situation room and media outfit, construct memorial site for insurgency, and support the security forces.
The federal house is fulfilling its duty, reviewing this appropriation bill at accelerated passage.
The Assembly is expected to deliberate on the budget in the coming weeks to hasten the recovery process in Borno. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.